Welcome to the Late Night Show with Cameron and Chase. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be interviewing Sherry Lampkin, and she's a CrossFit athlete and has done a lot of cool things with the CrossFit community around here. So Sherry, tell us a little bit about yourself. What have you done in CrossFit?
Well, I've worked out really most of my life. I started out as a cheerleader and did extra things through college, but mainly stuck with running for a long time. But over the last 3 years, I felt like I needed an overall exercise program, so I switched to CrossFit, and I've been doing that for 3 years now. Love it. It's just doing different movements and different things that is not just the legs or the aerobic, but it works all the different parts of your body, so it's really been great. I've judged CrossFit competitions from teens to adults. I helped with CrossFit competitions and have even competed in a couple of CrossFit competitions as well. At our gym, we also have teen classes, and those classes we help get young kids as young as 4 years old into the CrossFit gym and working out and modeling good exercise habits and everything for these kids, all up to age 17.
Now, that's really great, especially with our nation right now, how poorly people are exercising and the obesity rate and stuff. That probably helps a lot with that. So sportsmanship can be hard to define. Sportsmanship is what we're talking about in general today. It can be hard to define. So what is your definition of good sporting behavior?
Good sporting behavior would be treating others the way you want to be treated, encouraging others. You want people to have integrity in their sports and what they're doing, so you want to encourage that. You want people to lift each other up and not drive them down, so you want to say good, positive things. So
that's great. There was a basketball champion named David Robinson, and he defined it as playing with all of your heart and intensity, yet still showing respect for your opponents. So I think both what you and what he said both can sum that up pretty well. But part of the reason it's so hard for people to define is because sportsmanship is so much different among different sports that you're playing. So what does sportsmanship look like in the aspect of CrossFit? What are some special things about CrossFit that might be different than other sports?
Well, I guess like football is very contact sport, very physical contact.
People get hurt a lot.
Right. Then we have golf that you're real quiet and can't even talk. So that's kind of different. But with CrossFit, there's a lot of encouragement going on. There's a lot of yelling and screaming, not in a bad way, but in an encouraging way. And with CrossFit competitions, you can have teams or you can have individual competitions. But it's really exciting when you have other teams and other competitors at that competition encouraging each other and lifting each other up. I really have, in the competitions I've been to, not seen anything where somebody or another team's not encouraging another team in their workout. So
it's really great. It's a lot of camaraderie and
yes, very much so. And that's what it's like, a community in CrossFit. It's not an individual sport as much. It is, but when you look at it as a whole, really, I go for as much the community as I do for the individual
so
sport.
So it's like people from the same gym are competing against each other, so they're friends.
Yes.
And they're okay.
And even when we have other gyms come in and do the CrossFit competitions, they're as encouraging to us, and we don't even know who they are. So it's really neat.
That's cool. Well, Shields and Bremer, in their book Character Development and Physical Activity, said that morality in sports can be summarized into 3 different categories. These 3 categories are fair play, good sporting behavior, and character. So what would you say it means to have fair play in your experience?
Fair play would be not cheating, counting the right way. With CrossFit, you have a lot of repetitions. You have so many squats you have to do, so you have to be fair in your counting. You have to be fair in your movements.
Okay.
Have you break parallel and go to on a squat, go so low that so you have to do those the right way.
Okay, so I guess if people don't do that the right way, it doesn't count.
Right, they'll consider it a no rep, or and that's with CrossFit. You count, but you also, if you're in a competition, you have a judge that's counting alongside you.
So what is the difference between fair play, which we just talked about, and good sporting behavior, which is the second aspect of character development and physical activity?
Well, good sporting behavior would be encouraging words, encouraging your competitors, encouraging your teammates. I think that would be what that would be. So
like more having the right attitude instead of just the right actions.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Finally, what does it mean to have good character in sports? And how does good character intertwine with fair play and good sporting behavior?
Good character would be that comes from within. You don't need a judge there to make sure you count right or you do the movements right. That's just something that's inside and not something that's an exterior force making you do the right things.
So like you're saying, if you have good character, the other two will kind of fall into place on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we should be striving to create good character more than good actions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So in our textbook, we learned about 3 approaches to the development of character. And one in particular is the social learning approach. So in this approach, specific positive sporting attitudes and behaviors that are deemed appropriate by society, they're learned through modeling or observation of others. So like, for example, in baseball, like someone might, not cheat because one of their heroes in baseball didn't cheat, so they're modeling that behavior. So have you ever experienced this in CrossFit of someone else modeling good sporting behavior in that way?
I think that's modeled most with our teen classes and our youth classes. So we have, again, I said earlier, we have kids as young as 5 years old to 17, and I think that they see that as the social part is they see others. They see your coaches, the trainers. Younger kids see the older kids modeling what is the right approach and integrity.
Okay. So you said you judged, and you also taught teen classes. Is there anything specifically you've done to help model that, competing fairly, and have the kids seen you do that before the other adults?
Yes, probably just encouraging the kids. And when we are encouraging the kids, then they want to encourage each other.
Okay.
And especially when we have the older kids encouraging the younger kids, that is a modeling that as well. So the little kids are learning that at a young age. Is that kind of what you're looking for from the answer?
So in the social learning approach that we just mentioned, there are 3 components that summarize the entire process of seeing someone and copying that behavior. And these 3 are modeling or observation, reinforcement of that, and then social comparison. So have you seen examples of any of these 3 before?
I guess with the modeling, a lot of our teens, once they have been to teen classes and feel more comfortable with the movements and how to do things in CrossFit, they have actually transitioned to the adult classes. I have some of my kids, they go with me. If they can't make it to a teen class, they'll go to the adult class. But it's been modeled for them of how to compete and how to do the workout and how to conduct yourself in class if they are able to go and do an adult class. So that's a good example of the modeling.
Okay, what about reinforcement of that modeling?
Probably reinforcement are the coaches are very encouraging, which again, that models that teamwork and, encouraging each other. So that way the kids are doing it, the adults are doing it with each other. It's not anything where it's like, you didn't do that good enough, or you didn't there. It's more like, oh, you did a great job. Maybe you didn't get all the rounds completed, but you did the best that you could. So they're very encouraging.
Okay, so they're not really hard on you. And
no, it's not like military, somebody's yelling at you and getting onto you. I mean, I've come a long way in just what I've done with CrossFit, and the movements I've been able to accomplish has been really because of the encouragement I get from the trainers.
That's good to know, because I think a lot of times CrossFit is portrayed as more just yelling at your athletes to make them do what they need to do.
Yeah, and that's not the case at all.
That's good. We will now be having a short commercial break to thank our sponsor, Sportsmanship for helping us achieve our goals in news reporting.
Do you ever have anger issues if you lose a game? Do you tend to break things when you don't beat your high score? Sportsmanship may be just the thing for you. Sportsmanship is a small pill taken once daily for the next 23 years. If it is taken over the next 23 years, your sports issues of anger, resentment, and frustration will disappear almost immediately. Thanks to Sportsmanship, you can say goodbye to all of those old feelings of anger and say hello to a newer, happier, healthier life with great social skills and amazing sports behavior. Thank you, Sports Meet Fedman, for making all of our lives so much better. Side effects may include nausea, vomiting, headaches, diarrhea, or leprosy, possibly even death. Please consult your physician before taking sportsmethamphetamine. Thank you, Sportsmethamphetamine, for sponsoring us in our show. Now back to the interview.
So another approach to developing good sporting behavior is the structural developmental approach. So in this approach, instead of focusing on the actions of others, we're focusing on individuals' own underlying moral reasoning. So is this thing right or is it wrong? Kind of what we were talking about earlier with your character. So is there a time when you've experienced someone you know or yourself where you've had a choice to do what's right or wrong and you decided that on your own?
I've been in a competition where I've had someone where I'm judging and I missed a weight count on their weight. So, there's what we call one round max for a particular movement. And so say they got a max of 160 and I thought it was 170. And
Because you miscounted.
I miscounted on the weights because sometimes there's so many weights that gets on there that you can miscount. So I've had them, come back and say, hey, that wasn't right. So to me, that's, really good integrity. And that's, something that comes their character.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that you think that comes from just like their parents teaching them that at a young age, or like how do they develop character in that way?
I think it definitely starts at home, but it also comes from those at the gym who are modeling it. Their instructors and the trainers, they're modeling that integrity. So they pick that up, which again, if you're starting out younger, the younger they are, they grow up with that. So,
Yes. So between these two approaches of social learning or the structural developmental approach, so between like someone doing it just because it's socially acceptable or someone doing it because it's in their character and it's, they're deciding between right and wrong, which of these two approaches do you believe works better and why would that be?
I would say the developmental approach, because if that's something that's inside the person, it's not an outside force. It's not a judge making them do it right. Somebody that's watching over them. It's something that comes from within. So to have that integrity, that means that in the small things they're going to be have integrity, and they're going to have that in the large things. And when it comes with competition, I hate to say it, we have judges because they're people that they don't have integrity. But it's good when you know that somebody has that and they're not having to have somebody count for them or do it. So I think the developmental is probably more important.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of carries over into everyday life as well, not just sports.
Exactly.
Whereas you think like the first approach might not work well, you have to have someone watching over you. So while you're doing schoolwork or whatever, in school or in your work,
in the workforce,
Exactly,
you're dealing with money, you're dealing with things that you want to have integrity. You're in a grocery store and you accidentally forget to pay for something. You want to go back and pay for that. So, that kind of spans across your whole life with all different aspects, I think. So,
okay. So instead of it just being socially acceptable, you're making the decision whether it's socially acceptable or not.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming out here and letting us interview you.
Thank you.
We loved having you, and we enjoy everyone tuning in, and good night.
All right.